Hey there, you're listening to Delve, the official thought leadership podcast of the Desautels Faculty of Management at McGill University. My name is Eric Dicaire, I'm Delve's managing editor, and today we're talking to the founders of a company that's using AI to accelerate health research.
So we're building the infrastructure for image generation in life sciences. So our platform enables AI teams in life science to create high fidelity medical images at scale.
This is a way of making data sets representative of the population, making other products, other downstream AI products, better generalize on the real world data sets that they haven't been trained on. And this is all translating to patient outcomes.
So the voices you just heard are Rayan, Sadri, and Ali Rouzbayani. So Rayan is an alum from right here at McGill University, and his partner Ali studied at Université de Montréal. And together they co-founded a company called Carez AI, which is using artificial intelligence to help speed up health research through something called synthetic data. So if all of this sounds a bit sci-fi, yeah, you're kind of right. But I promise you it's going to make sense through this interview. So we talk about their AI model, how it's producing synthetic data, and what synthetic data is in the first place, how it all works, and how it can help research teams accelerate their research. And Rayan and Ali also gave us a glimpse of what it's like to be young entrepreneurs in this fast-moving and innovative space. So if you have any questions or feedback about this episode, you can send us an email at delve@mcgill.ca, and don't forget to also follow us on LinkedIn. So with that out of the way, let's delve into it. So I am here with two founding members of a very interesting company called Carez AI that originates right here at McGill. So I'm sitting here with Rayan Sadri, CEO of the company Carez AI, and then I have Ali Rouzbayani, who's the Chief Technology Officer. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So, okay. So your company is called Carez AI. You're working on AI, you're working on synthetic data, and it kind of it intersects with like biomedicine with the medical field. So I'm just curious if you can just, before we get in the weeds of how the technology works and what it means, if you can just give me a rundown of the company.
Yeah, for sure. So we're building the infrastructure for image generation in life sciences. So our platform enables AI teams in life science to create high fidelity medical images at scale, to cut the data bottlenecks and accelerate their time to market. It's everything about from drug discovery or cure cancer, diagnostic, evolve humans, this is life science, right? And you may think that, so they're adopting AI so fast, but it's not, right? I always say it's chained in the past because of data, right? There's a lot of data barriers. There's a lot of regulation in this space that teams are working on breakthroughs, but cannot accelerate their development because of the data access.
Right.
And that's where we come in.
Gotcha.
That's what we are doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by data access, what do you mean by that?
All of these teams are acquiring data set in different ways. They do partnerships with hospitals. They sign contracts with medical centers, imaging centers. And it's easier said than done that just signing a contract doesn't necessarily give an access to the data, right? There's an IP, there's ownership, there's a paperwork. It's about patient demographics. All of that, it comes with a cost for all of these teams. They acquire the data set. On top of that, they have to bring third-party software or experts to annotate the data set.
Right.
That would take at least a year, I would say, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
To just annotate all of this, imagine 50,000 samples. And then once you have everything, now you have to train and you have to develop your own internal tool for synthetic. That's where the problems start. You cannot train. You're training on a low quality data. It doesn't cover all the patient demographic. And now you're stuck.
All right. So that's fascinating. So, all right. So just for people who aren't familiar with the medical space, so when you talk about medical imaging, we're talking about scans of some kind, X-rays, MRIs, that kind of thing. And for, let's say, rare diseases where you need, you're analyzing these pictures to better diagnose them, to better figure out treatments and that kind of thing. And there's not always a lot of them. They're not always easy to access. So then this is where AI can help. So maybe this is a question for our Chief Technology Officer, Ali. So what is the AI doing here? How does it help?
So essentially what's happening here is that we have specific, so when we talk about AI, we need to understand that we have different kinds of AI, right? We have different models, even in the same space, even in the space of medical imaging, we have different types of companies, different types of models who have a specific kind of job. We have models that are great at detecting stuff. We have models that are great at predicting stuff. But what we're specializing in models that are able to generate images that are very high fidelity, but at the same time novel. It means our models learn from real world data with a lot of rigorous evaluation and quality control with radiologists in the loop, and they learn the distribution of the real data, and then they can produce samples that are completely feasible, plausible basically, and high fidelity, but also new. So they're not basically repeating or recycling the same samples that we saw. They're filling up the gaps in the data set.
Oh, that's interesting. So, okay. So let's say if we're looking at lung cancer, for example, that can present in a gazillion different ways. And we might not always have like a visual representation of what all those variations can look like. And to collect that data would be impossible. Like you would have to be able, like you'd have to have one patient for every type of presentation of that disease. So instead of doing that, we have an AI that can look at what's been done before, like images that have come before, with all the medical data that comes with that, generate images of all the variations of that disease. And the idea is that then we can start creating treatments that can address those various scenarios that where that disease might present itself.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So that's super interesting. So, and you're working with like doctors to like do this as well?
So our customers are essentially companies who have ML teams and AI teams building diagnostic tools for healthcare, building all sorts of cool stuff for the medical field. And we work with them closely. We work with radiologists, we work with other engineers, we work with decision makers in healthcare. So it's a very multifaceted thing, as you would imagine. So doctors are a very big part of our evaluation stack and how we do quality control. And they have a lot of say in how good or bad the data set is.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. Because, like, you know, when I think about a health system like ours here in Canada, like, you know, we pride ourselves on having a public system. But that's not to say that there's not private elements. So it's, I don't know, because like when I think about AI, like it's being developed by the private sector, they're kind of leading the charge on this. So I'm just curious how you think about that balance of like, is this a new avenue for private interests to get into the healthcare system? I'm wondering how you're thinking about this.
Well, I mean, that's a completely understandable concern. Like Ryan knows me, all my close friends know that how much I care about this issue of lobbying and basically for companies affecting stuff that are not really to play with, like people's health and healthcare and care delivery. And like society has had some bad episodes with big giant companies and in that front. But that's exactly why we're here, because we want to do it the right way. And also at the end of the day, it's about creating real value for the patients and the companies who are actually creating value for patients.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it is a service, and this is something that maybe the healthcare system hasn't quite come around to figuring out like a public way of doing it yet. Like it's because it's such a new technology, and there is something to be said about the speed at which the private sector can go.
Yeah, overall, when it comes to like building new stuff, as you mentioned, they need to be rapid, but at the same time have rigorous control over it as well. But essentially what we're doing in particular is really aligned with the end goal, of value creation for patients, because this is a way of making data sets representative of the population, making other products, other downstream AI products, better generalize on the real world data sets that they haven't been trained on. Mm-hmm. And this is all translating to patient outcomes. And one thing that's even more important is patient data privacy and control over that. And synthetic data is actually interesting because synthetic data has always, at its origin, the origin story of synthetic data was actually here, where synthetic data was used instead of real data because We don't want to look at people's real data or it's sensitive. So we just have, this is like historically what was done. People created these mock data sets to basically make it easier to work with data without infringing upon people's right to their data. And synthetic data is a great way of creating data sets that are remarkably close to the real world situation, but they don't belong to a real human being.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's a strong privacy angle to this. So yeah, I mean, just the technology of this, like, it surprises me. Like creating fake data, like it's based in reality, but it's these images that you're going to be creating is not attached to any person, it's not attached to any real scenario. So I don't know, but because you're basing it on a limited data set, like what's the risk there of there being a flaw? Because if there's a fundamental flaw, then now everything that you're creating based off of that is also going to be flawed. So like, what are you guys doing to prevent that, or how do you guys think about that?
Well, this is a big issue. It's a very important thing. This is actually the core of what we're building. Our data sets, what we're generating is in fact grounded in reality. And because it's being trained on thousands or even hundreds of thousands of real world samples, the trick is how do you efficiently learn the best you can from existing real world data, even though it's limited. And the way we can make sure that what's being generated is actually anatomically accurate and useful is putting a lot of controls in the architecture. We have a term in modeling and in AI called black box modeling, which is not really suitable for what we're doing here. Black box modeling means you have a giant, neural network or whatever, or a bunch of weights. You just pour in a lot of data in it and it learns to magically learn something or do something. But you never really understand how it's doing it, and you don't really understand fine-grained control over what it's producing. That's fine when you're doing it for other purposes, but here we're putting in our architecture a lot of ways that you can inject hardcore knowledge, like knowledge of anatomy, knowledge of the ground truth. We really inject the ground truth into this generation pipeline as a way of guaranteeing whatever it's being produced is going to follow the ground truth, the anatomical truth. On top of that, we have evaluation. That's also a big deal. Figuring out how to evaluate synthetic data at scale and fast and accurately is another thing that we're working on.
Yeah. And then does your model, does it feed on itself? Like once you start generating data off of real data, once you hit a critical mass of synthetic data, are you going to start refeeding that into the AI?
It's a big concern nowadays. I mean, the term that people use is model collapse. Model collapse happens when, for example, generative models like language models or image generation or whatever, or multimodal models are being trained on other synthetic data. And if this happens over and over again iteratively, model collapse happens, which means the model will actually forget the reality. And what it produces loses the nuances, loses the edge cases, and ultimately it would collapse into this unrealistic mode of data generation, which is terrible. So for that reason, we never train our generative models on synthetic data. But on top of that, it's a concern, and we need to have real protocols in place, which we do. For example, tracking, diagnosing when model collapse could be happening, even though you're doing everything right. Good bookkeeping, meaning having a really rigorous way of understanding what's the source of this data. Good bookkeeping of data is going to be important because we're not going to be able to tell which sample or which data set or which text or which image is real. Where did it came from? Did it came from our models? Did it came from a hospital? Did it come from another model? So it's really important to be able to track the data back to the source and to understand and to not mix it up with real data.
Yeah. And I guess you can use AI to do that.
Actually, yeah. We actually do.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess, because that's a lot of data to your point, what you said earlier, to annotate and to track and to Oh, that's super fascinating. So, okay, I mean, what has the response been like? So, you're courting investors right now, if I understand. What's the pitch? What are you pitching to them? And then how's the response been?
we were pitching, I would say, a portion of the future of life sciences. Like, we're not building a tool or like a feature. I would say it's a foundational layer that would shape the future of life sciences. Like the existence of the whole new wave of life science companies that are coming in the next years. They all depend, I would say, on a tool on a layer like us. So we're like on a path to become the default API for model development. Like any life science company from any size, no matter how big or small, are going to rely on our model, going to rely on our tools. And from an investment perspective, it's something new, right? Like novelty is always it's a double-edged sword. Like it can either be like so good or so bad, because there's like a learning curve that comes with it. Like some investors just get it like in few seconds, like, oh yeah, I like that. And some investors are having a hard time, like, oh, what are the responsibilities? What are the risks? What if it doesn't work out? But the ones who actually get it are super excited. They can see like the future with it, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you see yourselves expanding outside of healthcare?
Yeah, 100%. I would say this is just like a vertical that we started. This is our wedge. It's just for the starters. We want to show the potential, but I always say like sky is the limit. It's and like with life sciences, it's one of those categories. It's like the frontier of tech, right? Like it's the main difference between life sciences and other industries is that they're working so hard, but they don't have data, so you never know how much you can do once you get the data.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big question for us.
Right. That's true. Because if you have a very limited data set to begin with, then how do you start building on that? And then to avoid the collapse that we talked about earlier, because then, the science still has to work. You still have to keep doing that real work of, observation, collecting and samples and that kind of thing. And what are some challenges of founding a company like this these days? It's because AI is kind of in everyone's mind. I think a lot of people are founding companies around, maybe not necessarily in life sciences, but they're kind of looking at ways to use this technology and they want to be in this space. What's that experience been like for you guys?
Starting a company is always hard. I always say it's so hard. It's so difficult. It's like a loner's job, right? We're lonely. I don't want to I don't want people to be empathetic, but it's really like a loner job, right? You start from scratch, on a piece of paper. You write something one day and you're picturing yourself in all of those big tech publications that, hey, I want to make it there. And you have years ahead, right? You don't know all the ups and downs. You're going to have thousands of rejections until you get one yes. So I would say in order to be a startup founder, you should just prepare yourself mentally. That's one thing. And I think the most important thing. The second factor, I think, is focus, right? We're living in a world of distraction. I think our attention span in this generation is very low, right? The bar is so low. So no one is focused on what matters, right? They're all distracted by social media, distracted by other people's opinion. No one know the basics. If you master the basics always going to be the same, right? So you have to master the basics, I would say. And this is what we did. Over the past couple of years, we have educated ourselves on the fundamentals of startups. There are thousands of companies who have done it. So let's study them. Let's learn the basics. Let's put them in action. Let's do some experiments. Let's fail. And let's see what works, what not. And then once the initial thing works, then you can apply it your own way.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Something that Ryan always mentions that I love is learning to unlearn all the stuff that we've been seeing. And when it comes to startup and AI space nowadays, I mean, you mentioned it. We have so many people building cool stuff, but it's really important to not just follow the form, not just follow the trend, and just because as Ryan mentioned, really stick to the basics of how does this actually going to create value for the user, for the customer, for the patient, and that's not easy at all.
Yeah. So, okay. So what are you most excited about going forward? Looking at the future, from where you are now, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What are you excited about?
Personally, I love startups. I love working what I do. Like, it's my passion in life. Like, I've been studying, I would say, startups ever since I was like 16, 17. So like it's something I love. It's something like, making a change in life, making a change in the world, right? Like just leaving a legacy. I don't know. I mean, we're still like early on, but I really want to like, make a change. Like 5 years from now, if they say they cured a super rare type of cancer after using the tool, after like, being able to generate thousands of samples because of that tool, that would 100% excite me, right? Like that's something that keeps me going, right? Like the fact that we are shaping, like, we're having a part in portion of the future that really excite me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, what about you, Ali?
Well, I mean, first of all, I just love learning. Love learning about the nitty gritty, the technology aspect of it, the life science aspect of it. But the North Star for me is basically preservation and protection of life, right? And for people, because life is really precious.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Cool. Well, Rayan, Ali, thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for your time.
All right, so that's the show. What a fascinating interview. It was so interesting to talk to them about how their AI model is different from more general ones like ChatGPT. I also appreciated how open they were about how they approach their AI model and how forthcoming they were about their experiences as young entrepreneurs. So I wish them all the best. So if you like what you heard, don't forget to leave us a rating, review, and a comment. You can also send us an email at delve@mcgill.ca. We'd love to hear from you. So special thanks to Rayan Sadri and Ali Rouzbayani for joining us on the pod. My name is Eric Dicaire. I was your host today. My editor-in-chief is Professor Saku Montara. He also produced all the original music for today's pod. McGill Delve is the official thought leadership podcast of the Desatel Faculty of Management at McGill University. You can visit our website at delve.mcgill.ca for more thought leadership content just like this. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.